It's the Sales Minute, Sales Minute. It's the Sales Minute, Sales Minute.
All right, welcome to another Sales Minute and a Half. I'm your host, Matt Adams. Good to see y'all again. I want to do something a little different today. So I put together this drawing, and I wanted to walk you through it. This is just a way of getting some ideas out. You've probably heard me talk a little bit about the idea of creating the Switzerland, this neutral, kind of centralized territory, but I think I'm going to switch up the metaphor, and let's go with Washington, D.C., because I like that idea. Nobody really owns this, because if somebody owned it, we'd have too much influence. And I think that metaphor really works well for us in this case, because we've got these three teams that are primarily responsible for product, digital design inside of companies, right? We've got product, engineering, and design. And the three of these work together all the time. We're really finding that a lot of this is siloed, and it really does make sense because they're all doing different tasks. They're running at extremely high rates of speed. And because they work so fast and so rapidly, we've got a lot of things happening all at the same time. So maybe this is our timeline of what we're going to deliver and what we're putting together, right? So we've got, kind of the idea stage. I'm going to try to draw a light bulb. That's not too bad. All right, here's my light bulb. And then we're going to ship the project. All right, so we're going to make a box. I'm not going to make it 3D. That's our timeline, right? So we've got all these things that need to happen in order for us to ship our product. So at the beginning stage here, everybody's aligned on all of the things that are happening inside of the organization. This is a really cool time. Like at the beginning of an idea, like everybody's excited, like it's real simple. We're very, very aligned. But as time progresses and we move on towards that, we start to get a little bit of misalignment on things. And it's very hard to recognize at this stage. It's very easy to see here. This is that I didn't sign off on that, or that's not what we designed, or that's not aligned in our design system, right? All those things happen at this stage, but all along the way, they don't just suddenly appear there. It's just all these little decisions of misalignment all along the way and end up contributing to something that's not at all what we talked about, right? And this gap right here is really, really expensive. It's really expensive because your choices are, we have to either go back and redesign or redevelop something, which is, depending on your research, 2x to 5x the cost of just getting it right the first time, or your decision at this stage is, hey, we're just going to live with this and we're going to fix it on the next iteration or the next release, and it goes into the next sprint. So this stuff happens all the time inside the organization. I bring this all up in the context of the diagram that I meant to show you, and we'll get back to in a second here, because I think it's really interesting. Nobody ever intends to make bad choices, right? Nobody's like, I'm going to screw this up. I'm going to round the edges and everything else is squared, or I'm going to run with this old information because I'm evil. That doesn't happen. Everybody has the best intentions, and they're going with the information that they have at the time that they're making the decision. And I think that that's really critical, because a lot of times, all of this information, it's not centralized and neat like it is in the picture, and things never work out like the picture, right? You're given little bits and pieces of information, and then you run on that and make the best decision that you can in the time that you have. And then you end up getting into those situations where something's changed or something's happened, you didn't get the update, and then we're forced into that really expensive decision. So let's get back to the idea of this centralized, neutral place, right, where we have all this. And that's why I think it's important. So we've got all three of these kind of groups. They're all working together. They all have the common goal, a win for one is a win for all, right? That's really important. I want to break down some of the ideas that I think happen inside each of these teams. So we're going to start with design, because we've been working with design the longest, right? So design, out of the three, is newest to the game, right? Product's been around a long time. Engineering's been around for a really long time. Most designers and design teams are really sick at this point of repeated busy work. So this has happened not just on Figma and cloud files, but going back a long time of delivering comps in different formats, Different teams have different tools that they want things delivered in. So they have this work that has to get delivered and they have to do it 2 or 3 times. There are teams that have to literally recreate their designs in some other format in order to have it delivered in the way that product or engineering wants it done. Lots and lots and lots of changes happening. So if you look at the purple section here, this is more of the North Star, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit, right? Let's look at products. So product's technically responsible for the process. So they have lots of tools that prioritize what product wants and product needs. So you think about all of the tools that go into product. The new abstract deck that we have, the most number of tools in there, it's not design actually, it's product. They've had a lot of stuff marketed to them over the years. And I think they're a bit more of a refined customer because of that. I think the interesting thing, design is very much on the forefront of making new things, so they tend to be a little bit more understanding. If you think about product's pretty mature. They've been around for a little bit. They've got very mature products that they're used to experiencing. So they've got a lot of tools. They've got a lot of experience. They've got a certain expectation that they have when it comes to having a product. I think that they're also, and this is just my gut, I think they're also tired of mediating design and engineering. I think a lot of their energy goes into kind of playing referee between these two groups. And then let's go down here to engineering. So engineering, been here the longest. They've already got a well-oiled process. If you look at any of the stuff on process, workflows, all that other stuff, it all goes back to engineering. That started all of it. So they've got this really well thought out process that's dialed in. They just want to get shit done, period. And so anything that interferes with number 3, I think tends to be a bit of a problem. So what we want to make sure is that we're helping them get things done in a very easy, straightforward manner. So those are our 3 groups. And now I want to think about this handoff between the 2 groups. So say design loves notebooks, right? And so design goes to product and they say, hey, product team, we've got this great new tool that we want to use. It's going to make things so much easier. So here's what product hears. They hear, look, here's another new tool from the design team, because this happened lots of times, right? You think about all of these tools probably at some point have had something in there where they go, hey, we're going to use this now. Hey, we're going to use this now. Hey, we're going to use this now. If we go down here and we go design comes to engineering and says, hey, I've got this great new tool that I want to use. It's going to really streamline our process. I think engineering here is, hey, just give us what we need, align to our process. Again, they've been here the longest. This is our process. Please just align to that. And then let's think about product. Product comes to design and says, hey, we want you to deliver all of your design work in this new thing. And I think what design hears is, here's just another way that product's trying to micromanage us and control us. And then I think the interesting thing about all of this is if we think about this from the engineering origination standpoint, I really don't see a scenario where either engineering goes to product and says, hey, we want to use notebooks. That's not really what it's built for necessarily. And I don't know that engineers are going to go to design. Okay, so we've explored kind of how things might go where they work together. You'll notice my really fancy purple bridge here. This purple bridge, it is a bridge, by the way. This purple bridge, I think, is where we really, really want to be. So we want to live in this space. I think this is where all of our communication, the things that we want to get really good at is helping bridge this, right? We want to help design bridge notebooks to product, and we want to help product bridge things back to design in the cases where we're starting with product first. And that works in a couple different ways. And that's why it's also purple here, right? So if we're helping design go to product, we want to emphasize that, hey, product, we want a centralized place for product documentation, for scope, for PRDs, that North Star that's always up to date. We want you to have visibility into what design is building without too much and without not enough, right? Just the right mix of the visibility so that you can easily see what design is working on. You can also then ensure that engineering has a say in the tech that's going in to develop the things that we're putting together. So one, it's really easy. It's centralized. It's always up to date. You don't have to keep going back to design saying, hey, I need comps. Hey, I need comps. Hey, I need an update on this. Like, this will make your life easier. I think those things will really, really help us. In the cases that we have a product team that's looking for something new and a way to update design, we go to design and say, hey, now you no longer have to deliver comps in multiple formats. You don't have to manage them wondering what's up to date, what's not up to date, who's making decisions off the work that you've put out there that's maybe not even up to date. Less slacks or emails asking for comps, no more, hey, you didn't tell me from other departments. So this is a really good way to sell this to design teams, in my opinion. And then finally from engineering, and I think we'll get to that down the road. I'm not going to focus on that for this video, but hey, no more surprises. You can get involved with as little or as much as you want to, depending on your bandwidth. You can stay in your own lane, but get engaged where you want to. That's really all we need to know right there. Couple other thoughts alongside of all of this. One is we've got 3 different kinds of organizations, and I've got a few examples here, but you've got product-led organizations like Square and Google, very product-centric. So we're going to want to start with this sort of idea inside of those companies. So kind of think through when you're putting all of this together, like what type of company am I talking to? Is this a design-led organization like Airbnb? That's going to have a very different approach. Again, we're going to emphasize these things here. Or is it a business-led org? And the business-led org is really interesting because we haven't really historically sold in this way, but that's going to require us to dig more into the amount of time spent really between this and this, right? Like, how much time do we spend? What is the cost associated with not having these things, or the time spent for teams delivering comps in different formats? So we dig into these pain points, we assign time to all of this, and we help kind of bubble up dollar amounts to really put some sense around all of this to do a kind of typical like ROI on something like this. So I think in the organizations, when we identify them in this way, will help us know how to direct the feedback or what we want this to be. And then finally, I want to talk about like why it's important for this to be that like DC type place. One, teams already have tools that own these spaces, right? Like if we zoom out here, like Asana, Monday, Quip, like product already has a lot of things that they already have that they own. It's their thing, right? Design has tools that they own. It's their thing. Same with engineering. So if we go in and we kind of directly try to replace those, there's going to be a pushback. I think the cool idea of developing this new space is nobody owns this yet. That's wide open. We don't have to fight with that. I mean, we kind of do, right? Of like, hey, we already do. I see what you're trying to do. We already do it in this way, or we use this application, or this is our workflow. But I think that there's something interesting in the idea of like tapping into this is a new thing, because there isn't really anybody that we're competing against necessarily, theoretically. So that's one reason I think that's really cool. Reason number 2, it gets into that like favoritism, right? Like that whole idea of like we created DC, it's not a state, it's not in anybody's state. Like all these states kind of deeded a little bit of land to all of it because we didn't want favoritism, right? By making this not design's thing, not product's thing, not engineering's thing, it's collectively our thing, so that we're working together and we're helping. It's like the community garden, right? We're all working together and we're all going to benefit from the work that's being done there. So I think that that's really important. And then because of all of that, we just kind of do our part to keep the whole thing running. And I think that that works well with the narrative that we're trying to set with notebooks. So these are just some ideas here. I wanted to get this out and share this with the group. I hope it's been helpful. If there's things that you'd like to cover, other conversations, or you disagree with something in here, I would love to hear it. Like post some content, put some messages together, start a Slack group. But we all get better by sharing these ideas. Let's keep it up. Talk to y'all later.